You're doing it at your own risk. You know that it's an addictive substance, and you know like that you can get in trouble and everything. Like it's your own personal thing.
My opinion on vaping. Well, still a lot of unknowns about vaping. One of the things is we do treat it as a substance that is not appropriate for students here at Saline High School, and so it just concerns me a little bit because it's more taking the place of cigarettes and potentially other things such as marijuana, and so those are the things that it simulates a little bit, as we're seeing a growing pattern of this happening throughout, not only here at Saline High School, but in the county, throughout the state, and obviously throughout the country.
Well, it's obviously weekly, and you guys are the experts. You see it a lot more than I do. It's such a tough thing to catch because it's so easy to get away with, and it's athletes, it's non-athletes, it's band kids, it's non-band kids, it's all across the spectrum. I think nationally we're suffering with the same thing that other kids are, that a lot of our athletes are using right before athletic events to get a stimulant buzz, and that's the other thing that we haven't seen from tobacco products in the past. The nicotine levels are extremely high, so kids have learned that if they vape a couple times, they get a stimulant rush that they haven't got from tobacco in the past. So yeah, we're seeing it all over.
My friend was like, yo, you want to try something in my car? So I was like, why not? If we're too young to be buying them, then we shouldn't be able to use them at school and stuff. And I think that if you're going to bring, drugs onto school property, like they have every right to say no, and like you get in trouble for it. Like, those are good rules.
Well, I will say typically minimum once a week we'll find a student in possession of a vape. Usually it's told to us by another student. It's not something that we just go looking for, but our students are helping pay attention to this as well. And so I think that's the important piece, that our students are standing up for trying to keep this a safe place as well. So we'll get a lot of things on our Hornet hotline, just chats that say so-and-so might be having a vape, might be vaping right now, or maybe has something on them. And so we will look into that, and in most cases it's proven that they do.
I mean, vaping has kind of turned into high school's kind of social thing, like how beer is for adults, it seems like. It's a social drink. It's kind of just a social thing, like everybody does it and shares it.
I guess as far as young people, it's gonna sound mean, but a lot of our young people at middle school and high school, they think they found this, like they're getting away with something. They don't realize that they were targeted. Companies knew that middle school, high school, college age kids, it would be dumb enough to start it. Now they have a customer the rest of their life. I believe a small minority of people, their morals were or their motives were in the right place. A very small percentage thought it might be a good way to help adults kick the habit of smoking. Not that it's totally healthy, but healthier than tobacco smoking. However, a large proportion of people found some money to be made. They targeted young people, and just like the tobacco companies did years and years and years ago. And just from a common sense perspective, like, I don't know any business plan that's a good business plan that you want to go out of business in a couple of years. So I'm not buying that the majority of these people were trying to get people off cigarettes and they just go away. They try to create new users, they try to create new habits so their business would grow. That's a good business plan. So I don't think they're that stupid, pardon what I'm saying, that their business plan was, we want to go out of business in 2 years. So that's my opinion.
I mean, I definitely feel like after vaping, I've been a bit more open to other things. Like, I've just been like, well, I already did this one thing, I could probably try like something else. Obviously nothing bad, but I definitely feel like it's opened my mind a bit more.
I think it's becoming more of a common fad, and it's pretty serious in the sense of, you know, what they can be doing other than, you know, people think might just be these juice pieces that they're putting into the vapes. But then there's the nicotine portion of it, and then there's the THC piece that's the more dangerous piece that we're unaware of. Again, the effects that this is going to take on students and people who are vaping down the road.
It appears to be, the same issue here as young people are using awful lot. A lot of the medical community is extremely worried about what's going on. There's no way you can justify that it's healthy. I mean, I don't think you'd have any medical doctor or neurologist or cardiologist saying that's a healthy thing. So I think it's something we've been doing all across the nation, concerned about. So.
It's becoming a bigger issue throughout the country. Recently I was talking to the high school principal in Palo Alto High School in California, and the question I always ask anybody that's in our profession is how's the vaping situation there? It's exactly the same there. It's a big thing. It's happening more and more, and they're having, they're looking into how they can prevent that and stop that and educate as much as they can about vaping and the dangers potentially to it.
As a medical professional, I think my opinion is probably the same it would be as an adult and a parent. But as a medical professional, I would say it's not a good choice for teens, not a healthy choice. So I would advise anyone, but especially teenagers, to not partake in vaping. A lot of the effects of vaping because of what is contained within it, and often it has nicotine, even if it says that it doesn't.
85% of all the juice that's not nicotine, just the flavoring, 85% of it has high levels of nicotine.
So even though they say that it may not contain, they found nicotine in about every product. Teenagers are at a higher risk because of the nature of when you're starting. So when you start something younger, and it's something that has an addictive property, it sets you up for a lifetime of use.
It gives you like a buzz, and it's kind of nice, and then it just started turning into like a social thing.
So we worry about addiction first and foremost. We worry about that it's illegal, so we don't want anybody to get in legal trouble with it. It also affects different systems of the body. You can have, from a neurologic standpoint, dizziness, headaches, sleep disturbances. It affects your heart. It can cause chest pain, really. If everything's beating a little faster, heart rate's up, blood pressure's up, people can feel uncomfortable and I've actually had patients report that they felt like they were having a heart attack. It's often because they've consumed or inhaled too much nicotine, and so it has a lot of detrimental effects.
Again, if I catch 4 vapes today, right, I could catch 4 different things. One, it could be what they say, just the flavoring with no nicotine, no other mood-altering chemicals in it, which contains a lot of chemicals that aren't healthy. The second vape I catch is nicotine, and the levels are extremely high, okay? The third vape we usually catch has THC. Good joint 10 years ago had 9% THC in it. An average joint today has 25% THC. The THC they're doing in vapes is 90% THC. And then the fourth vape that we could catch is usually a synthetic stimulant, similar to a bath salt. So just, you never know what you're doing.
There are particles in that vapor that could do long-term damage, like to your lungs. So we may see someone eventually, just like smoking cigarettes, where they have shortness of breath, maybe lung damage and long-term lung disease.
The quicker a drug gets to the pleasure center, the quicker and stronger the addiction. So when you're vaping, the nicotine gets to your brain, pleasure centers within like 7 seconds. That's a very quick reaction. Nicotine, we know, is far more addicting than heroin. It's a very quick addiction. It's a stimulant addiction. It affects the areas of the brain for pleasure and dopamine release. Those areas of the brain that we use ongoing, those get stronger basically, and the areas of the brain we don't use don't get as strong. So automatically we are rewiring our pleasure centers in our brain to accommodate for the nicotine. And that's not because the kid's wrong, bad, it just happens. And it happens much quicker in an adolescent than a full-grown adult.
Not really. I mean, I started off like, why not? Probably shouldn't have started so soon because like as an adolescent I had a really big chance of getting addicted. And like I know I'm not, like I'll just randomly not do it forever and I just won't even like want to. But I think that if other people are starting it like young ages, like they have higher chances of getting addicted, so that probably wasn't the best idea.